Hey everyone, Georgie here with Ukraine Matters. We have an extremely interesting situation on the front lines in Ukraine, and we're going to cover it all, but let's straight go to the Robotyne area where Ukrainian breakthrough was ongoing in the last couple of days. We got a lot more information, we got a lot more overview of what kind of challenges Ukraine was facing, but the current situation is as follows. I wrote in my community post that Ukrainians have pushed through the first line of the Russian defense, and now there are fights that are being reported in the area of Verbove, which is this settlement right here, which is behind the second line of defense. However, at that moment, reports was mostly that it's some kind of Ukrainian troops, some kind of light troops with little to no heavy weapons or even vehicle support. So it was not mechanized troops. And while there was a lot of optimism, generally speaking, I expressed that I still feel that Russians have the reserves, and we also got additional informations and additional messages saying that, hey, Russia is sending more reserves to the area. And I said that one or the other, either these reserves are non-existent or super poor quality, and then Ukrainians are just breaking through Verbove, and after that, we end up in a breakthrough situation where Ukrainians will gonna start snowballing their success, going into multiple directions, yada yada yada. This has not happened as during this week, so instead we're gonna be ending up in at least probably week or additional 2 weeks of this slog of Ukrainians going through the Russian forces that arrived to this area. What needs to be kept in mind is that while Russia does not have operative reserves in depth inside of this territory, there are still people defending, quite significant number of Russian formations that are defending against Ukrainian breakthrough. It means that there is no easy going forward. Ukraine still need to do a lot of work to get through these Russian defenses. It's a grinding work, it's a heavy work, especially we've seen some additional data on what kind of fortifications Ukraine has been using, the extensive subterranean tunnel network, huge fortified positions just east of Robotyne and so on. There are many pictures on that, which were not seen on satellites because a lot of them are just covered and never seen. But what it does mean is that once Ukraine gets any kind of penetration, then there is nothing to wait for them in depth. So if Ukrainians will slowly push Russians and push and push and push and push, and Russians never break, then we will have this longer slog of this front line being stretched. However, if there is a break in any parts of the front line where Ukraine is applying pressure, be it Velika Novoselka direction, be it Robotyne direction, be it around the Petykhatki direction on the west side, or just recently we've heard Ukrainians are putting a lot of pressure around Pavlivka here in the recent days, so it might be additional direction. All in all, that means that right now Russia is the same situation that they were in Kharkiv. It's an air balloon. It's a balloon that has nothing on the inside. So there is this flexible layer on top. But if that layer of front line can be penetrated, either because on that specific spot there was not enough troops, or the troop morale just collapsed, or they were not having enough logistics delivered to them, for any reason, there is a huge potential for breakthrough from Ukrainian sides. We additionally got a confirmation about the state that the front line is in from General Tarnavsky. I'm sorry, I'm going to be looking at how correctly his last name was spelled. And General Tarnavsky explained very good details, saying that Russians have actually put a lot of effort specifically building that first line of defense. He says that if we are to approximately represent the amount of work to be done, so we can look at all of these fortifications that over here, and he says roughly it was 20% of effort done to build the second line of defense, and about 20% was built to build the third line of defense, whereas more than 60% were specifically dedicated to build this first line of fortifications to prevent any kind of advances by the Ukrainian forces. So what they are seeing right now and what he's expecting is that we're going to see a speed up of the tempo of Ukrainian advances as they go deeper and deeper into the next line of advances. I'm pretty sure right now Ukrainians, well, firstly, they're doing what I was explaining they were doing. They're right now aiming to expand the area of contact with this front line. And I'm pretty sure that they're preparing their operation for getting the vehicles over those anti-tank ditches and either going into Verbove or Novoprokopivka or whatever, because we also have reports saying that Ukrainians have indeed started advancing into the north side of Novoprokopivka, and we have heavy reports of heavy clashes on the east side of that settlement. So Ukrainians are indeed pushing both south and towards the west from their positions. Right now, the only forces that reached over these trenches and went to fight in Verbove are the Ukrainian special forces and light troops. It's troops without the support of vehicles. They've met resistance from Russian forces and they fell back. So right now, I believe Ukraine is preparing more activities once they push and erode this freshly arrived Russian troops. But there is additional interesting place on the battle map, or like more of a frontline battle map is how we're viewing it, which is this one, because this is a super low-key situation that is very underreported that happened just recently in this area of Novoyehorivka. In this area, we remember that some time ago Russia launched a spoiler attack. Now they've regrouped their forces and they prepared a massive push here for a breakthrough around Novoyehorivka. The reports were that Russia used some 30 tanks as this massive mechanized force that would go forward and break through Ukrainian defenses like Germans did in the Second World War. That didn't go well to plan, let's put it this way. Some people say that this is really a big tank massacre that just happened in this area. But generally speaking, the 30 tanks that were trying to advance in this area, obviously not all of them were destroyed, but this whole attempt at trying to do mechanized warfare suddenly with tank pushes and so on into this area was an extreme failure by Russian forces. I am pretty sure they're not going to stop. The generals of Russians are not going to stop. We talked about it extensively in the last video about why they're not stopping, because why they're not learning. But most importantly, we see that their attempts at conducting a spoiler attacks to make sure Ukraine sends more reinforcements in the area are failing. And that's the good news. But more importantly, we see that Ukraine is advancing their warfare technologies as well. Just recently, we've heard about the strikes on the Pskov airfield, which is located in the Pskov region, which is quite far from Ukraine. You can see that this is about this area where it hit, and that's a lot. It's about 700 kilometers away. For this specific operation, Budanov has expressed his overview and said that this was done mostly by partisans launching drones from area around Pskov, whereas Zelensky has said, and it was a little bit overlap, so I'm covering it just to make sure that there is no contradictions, is that Zelensky said that they've used missile systems, new and improved missile systems that are able to fire at 700 kilometers, and they were used to fire on the targets in Crimea. I believe it was the missile system, the modified Neptune missiles that were used to take out the S-400 system. So they were launched from deep within Ukraine. More importantly, Danilov, who is the or National Security and Defense Council Secretary, if I'm not wrong, how it's spelled in English, he said that Ukraine is very, very close to acquiring its own produced missile systems that would allow to strike targets more than 1,500 kilometers away. So there is significant developments that are happening with Ukrainian arms producers, which is a great news. I already explained a lot and talked a lot about the fact that Ukraine needs to develop their own productions. And one of the most important production of a new kind of weaponry that Ukraine is producing is their drone technology. Drone technology is advancing rapidly in Ukraine. We see that they have really looked at the cardboard drones, and just to be clear, that's not pizza box cardboard. It's a very dense cardboard material that from the drones that arrive from Australia. So thank you so much to Australian partners here. And Ukrainians have used those drones to create their own versions of them that would have the strike capabilities. And they've used them to strike targets are in the area of Kursk, where they struck an airfield. And Russians were very happy because, oh wow, these drones flew in and destroyed absolutely nothing. Nothing was burning and nothing was hit. Well, the unfortunate truth is that it did, because as Ukrainians showed videos later, these drones, they have a lot of shrapnel inside of them. So once they arrive, they just fire a lot of shrapnel. And while it would not maybe destroy any kind of armored vehicles, it would not target any kind of military positions, like get through some certain level of fortifications. Planes and radars that were struck in area of Kursk, they are very sensitive equipment. So for them to be damaged, you don't need to apply a lot of force. Planes need to be light. So they are built from sturdy but very light materials. So these even smaller drones that cost almost nothing can do significant damage. But Russia is also not standing on its place. Some recent times they've appeared on the news that they are making innovations in their technology to protect their planes. The first pictures that we received saw planes being covered with something dark, and the first assumption was that it's some kind of paint that will reflect radar beams and try to hide the signature of these planes. However, newer pictures acquired with the higher resolutions showed that it was not paint. It was just tires. They're putting tires on planes. Innovation. Yes, so Russians are putting additional layers of tires on top of planes to, I don't know. Probably there is an idea behind it, but that's what they're doing. But Ukrainian drone technology, which I think is more important here, is showing itself as we're seeing more and more videos from the drones from the area in the south as well. This is especially important because we know that in the south, Russia has air defense systems. It's very hard to fly drones there. Yet we're getting high resolution drone footage from up above. So it's not like a low flying small drone. It's something bigger. And that is the drone that I'm still wondering what it is. It's some kind of stealth drone. We saw both in the videos of Ukrainians targeting some of the Russian logistics supplies, some of their artillery, and also we saw a video of this drone apparently being chased by some of the Russian helicopters and planes, and that they were trying to shut this drone down, but they didn't manage it. So my expectation is because the drone is not giving strong enough signature for any kind of missiles or any kind of potential lock-on. So they are forced to basically try to shoot it down with conventional munitions. This is problematic for Russia, because if Ukraine indeed has a operational level drone technology that allows to have like a bird's eye view over a large area of operations and work even in areas that are completely protected by some kind of radar installations and air defense assets, that's a huge problem. That is extreme problems for Russians, and maybe that is something that can explain why Ukrainians are able to achieve such high attrition rates of Russian artillery, because they see everything. In any case, thank you so much for watching this, guys. Thank you so much for watching this map update. I'm gonna again say that I'm gonna release more videos while the situation is dynamic and developing really fast. Slava Ukraini, I love you, and I'll see you next time.